think we had either Cameron or Tyler. It's hard to figure whether it's Cameron or Tyler or Wilfred Frost. When I'm talking to any of them, they all sort of see what I mean. There we go. Look, see, I think there's a lost Winklevoss, and there he is right there. Anyway, FEMA, take it away. We have a double trouble.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate it. I'd like to welcome Tyler and Cameron Winklevoss on CNBC. It's great to see you both today.
Thanks, FEMA. Thanks for having us.
Not only are you guys,
by the way.
yeah, of course, both of you not only founders of Gemini, a cryptocurrency exchange, both of you are significant holders of Bitcoin, buying a significant amount back in 2013. Tyler, I'll start with you. What have you been doing over the last 8 months to accommodate this meteoric rise we've seen in Bitcoin, and have you been personally doubling down on your investment in Bitcoin?
So we've just been hodling. Our thesis is that Bitcoin is gold 2.0, that it will disrupt gold. And if it does that, it has to have a market cap of 9 trillion. So we think that prices Bitcoin it could price one day at $500,000 a Bitcoin. So at $18,000 Bitcoin, it's a hold, or at least if you don't have any, it's a buy opportunity, because we think there's a 25x from here.
And at 500,000 within the next decade, that means that Bitcoin would appreciate about 45 times from where it is right now, if I'm doing the math correctly. Cameron, worth around $9 trillion. I mean, so basically you're saying that Bitcoin could be about 40% of the market cap of the S&P 500. I mean, what takes us there? What's the bull case?
I think a lot of it is just investors coming in and realizing that inflation, there's a specter of inflation out there, and that how do you protect against that? Because I think there's not much of a debate on all the debt that's increased in the U.S., the money printing, and so how do you defend against that? And I think a lot of people are starting to realize that Bitcoin is really the best defense. It offers the opportunity for an asymmetric return of something like 25 to 40x from here. And I don't think there's an asset in the universe that can credibly offer that kind of potential and protect against inflation. Gold's the classic hedge. If this was the 1970s, we would probably be buying and holding gold. But today we have Bitcoin.
With that said, Tyler, it's still a significantly volatile, speculative asset. And comments from Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong just a couple days ago said Bitcoin lower back to 16,000. Concerns that he's hearing further regulation is coming from the Treasury Department, steps to increase data collection around digital wallets. What kind of impact could that have?
Well, look, Bitcoin is still the best performing asset of the year, even compared to equities. Look, back in 2013, there was a question if Bitcoin was going to be outlawed. We're way past that. So we believe in healthy, thoughtful regulation. And that's been the case in the US and many other jurisdictions for the last decade. We don't see that not continuing. So we think Bitcoin's here to stay. We think thoughtful regulation around it in the US and other sophisticated jurisdictions is also here to stay. So I'm not really worried about the boogeyman of regulation. That was a conversation that we got past like 5 or 8 years ago. But Bitcoin it's the best performing asset of the previous decade. It's the best performing asset of this year, and we think it will be the best performing asset of the current decade.
Hey guys, question for you. When you really look at this chart, the biggest move obviously came this sort of September, October, and that happened after PayPal effectively announced that as part of their digital wallets, they were going to be people would be able to effectively transact in Bitcoin. I shouldn't say they're transacting in Bitcoin, but because the Bitcoin effectively gets turned into fiat money. My question to you is, you've talked about it as digital gold. How much of it has to become an actual currency, if you will, to get to the numbers you're talking about, whether it's $500,000 of Bitcoin or more?
So we think that Bitcoin's really an emergent store of value, and so it doesn't really need to be a great medium of exchange. It just needs to be better than gold, and it's better across the board. So Bitcoin, the supply is fixed at 21 million. Gold is scarce. Bitcoin software, it can be sent through the internet like email. Gold is hardware. It's hard to transport. So really, I think the Bitcoin gold story, it's a pretty clear winner, and we think that's going to play out dramatically over the next decade.
Tyler,
Right. And no one uses no one uses gold to buy coffee, and it has a 9 trillion market cap. So if Bitcoin just is a better store of value, that still, gets us to 500,000 Bitcoin conservatively. If it also can be used as a currency, which isn't off the table, then it's even higher.
although that use case certainly hasn't been proven as of yet. With that said, on the topic of Treasury, Tyler, it is widely expected that Janet Yellen will be the next Treasury Secretary, the former Fed chair. I went back and looked at some of the comments she's made about Bitcoin when she was the head of the Fed, and she said in 2018, quote, "I'm not a fan." Before that, saying it's not a stable store of value. How do you make Bitcoin mainstream when those who will be architecting important policy around cryptocurrencies, regulating this asset, are clearly not supportive of it?
Well, we're happy to educate and have a conversation. Maybe we should reach out to Janet Yellen and talk to her. But look, when you see the likes of Paul Tudor Jones, Stan Druckenmiller buying Bitcoin and extolling its virtues, when you see companies like Square, MicroStrategy that are publicly traded, putting their treasury into Bitcoin to protect their valuation because cash is trash and they've realized it, that stuff does a lot to mainstream. And at some point, it's just hard to look at those data points, and deny that Bitcoin is incredible technology, but it's also an incredible store of value.
Cameron?
Yeah, look, Bitcoin's this alternative, non-sovereign store of value, emergent store of value. And I think that, education is important. We're regulated as a New York trust company at Gemini. We've been, live for 5 years, and we're just trying to make it super simple and easy for people to buy Bitcoin. And not everybody gets it, but the people getting it today is dramatically different than even 6 months ago before the pandemic. So it's really encouraging to see that, and we'll just see where it goes.
Well, it's been a fascinating story to watch, and we appreciate both of you joining us today to bring us your insight and what you're seeing as early investors and certainly vocal about it early on. Tyler and Cameron will lead the conversation there. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Melissa.
Seema, thank you. Coming up, a new way to